Hello, long time no see. I'll half apologize. So to be clear, this channel, I'm not making any money. So I do this channel purely on a impulse basis. In other words, if I feel like making a video, then I'll make one, and vice versa. So that's why you haven't seen me in a while, because I don't feel like making videos, and it's not a job. It's something that I do because I want to do it, and I tend to be kind of impulsive about things, so yeah, anyway. But maybe I should have been more clear about that. So if you've missed me, I apologize. Everything's fine. Got me working again. Things are picking up at work. I took about a 3-month layoff. It was more like a furlough. It wasn't a layoff in the sense that I lost my job. It's just that the boss said, hey, you wanted some time off? Oh, hell yeah, sure. And in Oregon, you can get unemployment while you're laid off, and basically you got a paid vacation. Okay. So, anyway, I was working on a project to share with you all. Let me fix the chair so it doesn't move so much. I burnt myself. My wife made some deep dish pizza, and she served it to me piping hot, and she warned me that it was hot, but I wanted the deep dish pizza so bad. It wounded me, it burned me, but it was worth it. It was so good. So yeah, don't eat. Yeah, it's too hot. Anyway, that's me. I'm crazy sometimes with that kind of stuff. I eat food. She's like, "How can you eat that? It's so hot. It's so good." I can't help it. All right. So, yeah. Well, let me just show you. So what I was doing, I was working on a. Let's see. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about this website, but not yet. Anyway. So here we go. I'm trying to click on the, anyway, I need to learn how to do production better. I'm confused. All right, here we go. So this study here is, I titled it "To the Branches in the Field" because that's the point of this. This is by David Koresh. And there's the date. March 10th, 1984. All right. So if you want to know where that is in the chronology, this is this is very early in his message. This is he started in September of 83, so this is roughly 7-8 months later. Just about a month before Passover. Maybe about 11 months. Excuse me. So I was transcribing this thing, and so that means, I'm getting, well, I have a way of downloading with a script. I can download the YouTube because I had uploaded this study to YouTube on my other channel. So so the cool thing about that is YouTube can then make a transcript using voice recognition, and I downloaded that, and then of course I have to go in. It's in raw form. It's horribly formatted. You have to go in and break it up into paragraphs and all that, right? And I was working my way through this, and anyway, yeah, it's really depressing. It's depressing for me because of what I know, what I know now about what he's talking about here. And my understanding of him as a person, and putting it all together, and like having 20/20 hindsight, and I can see the conniving and the lying and the scheming and the bullshitting even early on here. The game playing, the cultic-like behavior. If I haven't been clear before, let me just be clear. David Koresh was a disgusting piece of shit, okay? Just so I'm clear. As a person, he was a horrible, horrible, horrible person. I'm speaking from personal experience. Okay, so sometimes people have strong opinions about people that they don't know. Okay, and then maybe, well, yeah, you don't even know the guy. Why are you? Anyway, maybe it could be irrational. But in my case, I hope you cut me a break because I knew him personally, had personal experience with him. I'm one of the very few people in this world who can say that. So consequently, I feel that I'm entitled to this actually rather objective opinion. I've been thinking about this stuff for many decades, and yeah, he was really horrible. But on the other hand, I can also look at myself objectively and say, yeah, but I bought into what he was saying, and I enabled him for a time, and helped create. Essentially, we were a pedophile enabling group. Essentially, that's one way of looking. That may sound harsh, but that's the truth. I was talking to a fellow survivor the other day, about a month ago, and we concur. I don't want to say who it was because I don't want to, So, anyway. So what happened was I was transcribing this, and and then I got all, kind of, I don't want to say depressed. I don't know. I just got out of the mood. Let's put it that way. I was in the mood, and then when I finished transcribing the study, then I got out of the mood, and I didn't feel like doing it, so I didn't, and that's it. Kind of just wanted to do something else and do other things and get my mind off this stuff for a while, really, which was what I did. So now I'm ready to talk about it. Now I've got myself back, basically where I can be in historian mode. Okay, let's just call it historian mode. I can look at this. I have to. It's two different modes, right? Earlier I was in real person mode, telling you what I felt about him, and now we're going to be a historian. We're going to think about this objectively. So what happened was I also was talking to my wife about the very early days. And in the very, very early days, there was this very unusual thing that happened, which I have discussed before on this channel in some previous videos. And that is that Vernon Howell approached Lois Roden. Okay, so Vernon Howell, for new viewers, Vernon Howell is David Koresh's original name. Here we are in after September 1983. This is when he began his message. So he's at New Mount Carmel, beginning his message with permission from Lois Roden. And he is, at some point after this, and I would say a few months after, but there's a limit. So not 6 or 7 months after, but maybe 1 to 3, 4 months after, he approaches Lois Roden and it proposes to her that they fulfill Isaiah 8. Okay, and I've talked about this before, but maybe you haven't seen that I can't spell today, so let's. All right, so Isaiah 8. So the Lord said to me, "Take a large tablet and write on it in common characters belonging to Mayor Hashbaz." And I better read this in the KJV because that's what we used. "Moreover, the Lord said unto me, Take thee a great roll and write in it with a man's pen concerning Mayor Hashbaz." Let me make sure I got my phone on here in case my wife needs my help. She's feeling kind of sick today. So I took unto me faithful witnesses to record. Uriah. Oh, well, we don't want that. Oh. All right, faithful witnesses to record Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah. And I went unto the prophetess, and she conceived and bare a son. Okay, so in 1983, sometime, let's say October, November, whatever, Vernon Howell approached the new prophet, approached the older prophet, Lois Roden, and at this time she would have been like 67, and said, "Hey, Lois, the Lord has told me that we need to fulfill Isaiah 8:3. Lois Roden being the prophetess, Vernon being, I guess, in the place of Isaiah, and she's going to get pregnant and have a baby. And then what's going to happen, I don't know. And I'll explain why I don't know. Or in other words, what I'm saying is what he intended this pregnancy and birth of the baby to result in. I'm not clear on that. But anyway. So now my wife, who was very young at the time, she was around 15. She was there. She lived on Mount Carmel with her family there at the time. Now, understandably, she's 15. This is, this is happening then. It's not like she knows in the future that maybe she should pay closer attention because we're making history. She doesn't know this stuff. So she's only knows vague, and you know how when you think back on your life and you think about some things that happened, you get the chronology out of order and things, you don't remember everything. I'm a historian. I'm trying to nail things down and understand what's going on. But we had a breakthrough around the same time I was working on this transcript here. I was asking her about this, and she remembered some things that she hadn't remembered before. Okay, so then I was able to construct historically some things. And plus I had dates and books that have been published on this where there's some dates about George. Because George was, well, okay, so let me just describe what I learned. Okay, so one of the things I wasn't sure about is that you have to remember that at the time when Vernon approached Lois, this is super duper secret, which was very typical for Vernon. He liked to do secret things in the dark, secretly, because that's the way he was. He liked to be all mysterious, kind of like Jesus and Mark, right? Don't tell anybody, it's secret. This messianic secret, kind of, sort of like that, I guess. I just thought of that. It's funny. And so nobody knew except Lois Roden knew and Vernon knew about this. And okay, so this went on for a few months, I imagine. But so what happened was, and then during this time, business as usual. Vernon's giving his studies, these opening studies into his message, which would be in the later months of 1983. And anyway, let me full screen here so I can see, we can talk face to face here. So she's giving his message, and then so what happens is he starts spending a lot of time at Lois Roden's house. So she had her own rather larger house, which was the first house on the row of houses that Mount Carmel, kind of like a sickle-shaped road. It comes in the entrance and then it moves over. I'm sorry. Oh, God. Anyway, you get the idea. There's a row of houses. Her house was first, and then as you traveled down the road, you went past the administration building and then on to the other houses. So, and again, it wasn't like it was a mansion or anything, but it was a bit larger than the other houses. And he was staying there more often at this period of time, right? Well, Lois Roden has children and had a daughter, grown daughter, adult, who would call her mother occasionally. Now, these children, except for George Roden, the other children had basically left the faith, let's say. They weren't active members in the Branch Davidian movement. But this one woman, daughter, would call her mother from time to time to chat or check up on her or something. And so what began to happen is as she would call, and this would be later at night. This would be at the time when she expected to call her mom, and her mom would be in her bedroom reading or relaxing or whatever. And instead, guess who's answering the phone? Vernon Howell is answering the phone. And this probably happened a few times, more than once. And so, well, of course, normal people, because we live in the real world, get suspicious about these kinds of things. Vernon, who knows what he thought? Because he could be really clueless about social situations. I could tell other stories, which I won't get into. But yeah, he had. Sometimes I wonder if he was on the spectrum. Because sometimes I would notice he wasn't good at reading situations. So, in other words, understanding what would be the natural conclusions that one would draw from this. He probably thought he was showing off. Hey, I'm answering the prophet's phone. Look at me. Anyway, of course, daughter gets suspicious, and I guess confronts her mother later, I guess by phone, I'm not sure, and Lois Roden confesses to her daughter, yes, we're having a relationship. Okay, well then, so this daughter then notifies George, okay, because George is there. And George, well, let me, oh crap. I should have prepared better for this. I don't. I'm looking for a book called Madman and Wake. Ah, here we go. All right. Madman in Waco. This is by, this came out in, by Brad Bailey and Bob Darden. This came out in '93, and it's got some interesting things in here. Anyway, so one of the things is January 18th, 1984. That's the date that Vernon Howell and Rachel Jones got married. So, so what happened was that George confronted Vernon. So, let's see. George Roden, so this is on page 74. George Roden said that his sister Jane in California was the first to suspect that Howell was involved with their mother. When Jane would call Mount Carmel around midnight, Howell would answer the phone, even though the lone compound telephone was by Lois Roden's bed. This is incorrect. I don't know who got that idea, but no, there was a telephone in the administration building on Perry Jones's desk. There was a telephone at the Jones house, and there was a telephone at the Kendricks house, which was where my wife lived, in the Kendrick household, and then there was a telephone in Lois. So there was at least 4 telephones on the property, not one. I don't know why they would think that. But it certainly was the telephone that you would call to talk to Lois Roden. Howell would answer the phone, which was by Lois Roden's bed. When this happened often enough, Jane decided to return to Waco. George was in San Diego, California at the time, continuing. He was campaigning for the presidency. Yeah, he would run for president. It was really weird. So, let's see. Vernon was giving the lectures on the new stuff he was hatching up, and I would not go along with it, but I listened anyway to see what he had, George wrote. It seemed that all the group there was taking it in hook, line, and sinker. Well, that's basically true. Not all the group, but a lot of people were. Then that night, my mother told my sister that she just had to tell someone that Vernon and she were living together, and my sister told her that she knew already, so she told me. I confronted Vernon Howell with the proposition that he would have to marry Mother to not allow reproach to be on the association and the family. He said that because she told him that, she and me and my sister and all the Roden family would have to die in the slaughter of Ezekiel 9, 1 through 5. And I believe George. That sounds exactly like the... See, look, you're cornering a rat, okay? You've got a rat cornered. When Vernon was cornered like a rat, he would fight. He's not going to go down. Other people in the same situation might go running out the gate of the property, never see him again. In fact, that's probably happened. You catch them and they're gone. You know, go off to another place, another commune where maybe you can find some other people to shyster. But not Vernon. No way. He's going to stay and he's going to fight. And so he tells them they're going to die. All the Roden family are going to die in the slaughter of Ezekiel 9. I tell you that Ezekiel 9, I mean, I've talked about it before. It goes a long way. Ezekiel 9. If you don't know, it's a vision Ezekiel has. Okay, Ezekiel's in captivity. He's grumpy. He wanted to be a priest in the Jerusalem temple, but he doesn't get to be a priest because they took him away. So he's in Babylon. He's grumpy because he's been taken away from his element, right? His environment. There's other people that got to stay, and then those people developed an attitude problem. Well, we're here because God loves us and hates you guys. And so he had a vision where he went back to Jerusalem and saw women worshiping Tammuz in the temple, and then God's so mad that he's, hey, get these angels slaughtering weapons, boom, go out and kill everybody in the city that doesn't sigh and cry because of all the horrible stuff that's happening. And so this vision that Ezekiel had was applied specifically, well, to whoever you wanted. Like, if you're the Davidians and you're Hadif, and then the Adventists are screwing up, well, yeah, those guys, they're going to get the slaughter because they're not sighing and crying for the abominations. That's essentially the idea. And so on and so forth. Now, Vernon's telling the Roden family, well, you guys are going to die because you violated, you violated, anyway, you told the secret. So George says, so began the death decree against me and the Roden family and my mother by Vernon Wayne Howell on the night of January 13th, 1984. Aha! So you see? And when I saw that, I was like, oh. So it was a secret. So the date. So look at the dates, right? Do you remember? Vernon married Rachel on January 18th, 1984, but he was outed essentially as let's just say he's a fornicator. This is, and I'm being technical. In the group, we were standard Protestant believers. So in other words, sexual intercourse outside of marriage is fornication. In this case, right, because neither Vernon Wayne Howell or Lois Roden were legally married to anyone. Vernon had not been married to anybody previously, and Lois Roden was a widow. So yes, they are both technically guilty of fornication. Again, I'm just making a legal ruling here according to the rules of the group. I'm not judging personally or morally, but I'm just saying this is what we would have thought. So 5 days separates between the time that Vernon was outed and Lois Roden, that Vernon married Rachel. Okay, well, so I started asking my wife questions. Now, you have to remember, and it's something we've always known, but we didn't know the timing. My wife remembered the story, but she didn't know the timing. So the story is, yeah, but wait, there's more. So I was going to say that because it's so true. Okay, so here's the deal. My wife was instructed by my wife's mother, was specifically instructed by Vernon to inform my wife to specially inform her about this situation. That is, was told to please tell Debbie that, I was told by God to, have relations with Lois Roden because she was going to have a baby to fulfill the Bible, but she disobeyed, and the baby has been magically gone out of her belly now or whatever, something like that. And they've disobeyed, and I want Debbie to know this from me, that this was from God, whatever. Specifically, in other words, Rachel didn't even know. Okay? Rachel did not know about any of this, but my wife was instructed to be told this. And then, and then before Vernon, because he did this at night. In other words, the night that they got married, the day, so that night, so that would be the night of the 17th of February, or January, 1984, Vernon slipped out of Lois Roden's house. Now, he had lied about the van. So there was a blue Chevy van that belonged to Lois Roden, and he had borrowed it and then feigned a breakdown down the road and told her, oh, Lois, the van broke down the road, and I, blah, 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 that's why it's not here. Well, really what he was doing is he was doing a setup so that he could have the van parked at a place down off near the property it's a big piece of property, right? So you've got the road, the main entrance. Down the road from the main entrance, he's parked the van on the curb on the side of the road there. And then, what's the way it's going to work, right? Is that he can go, which is what he did that night. He got up, went down to Perry, and he knew that he had Perry right here. Okay, he had Perry. So he goes and gives Perry, God told me to marry Rachel and I'm scared. And Perry signs off on it. Rachel's 14, but it's legal in Texas, and takes her. And I remember the story that he carried her over the fence, the barbed wire fence, that she thought it was romantic, but he had to carry her over. I remember her talking about that. And when they got in the van and they left, and they were able to sneak away in the van because the van was off the property and didn't make any noise where Lois Roden could hear it or anything. That was premeditated, obviously. So in other words, he knew what he was going to do the day before to set it all up, right? But my wife said that after she was told about this situation, Vernon asked her if she wanted to marry him, or if she would consider it or something like that. And she had to tell him, no. And she says she even told him, my father has a gun, because she's getting sick and tired of him harassing her. So anyway, so in other words, he would have rather married my wife. But my wife, of course, again, doesn't have her father right here. So this isn't going to happen. So this is possible. Plus Debbie, obviously, my wife doesn't want to do it anyway. It's like the furthest thing in the world. She'd rather go blow her brains. I mean, I'm serious. It's just that she doesn't want to do it. She's absolutely, this is ridiculous. This is revolting to her. So, second choice was Rachel. And then they got in the van and left Mount Carmel. And yeah. So this all happened very quickly. This was in just the space of a few days. So in other words, this secret had been kept for a period of time, a number of months. And then within just space of 4 or 5 days, things happened very quickly. The jig is up, the cover is blown, the secret is out, and next thing you know, Vernon's threatening people with Ezekiel 9 because they know, and so on and so forth. And then months later, and I've talked about this before, essentially what happens is Lois Roden stands up in the group. So this study, then we'll get to that. This study is... The study is March 10th, 1984. So what had happened is Vernon left, and they were gone for a few weeks. They were gone for a few weeks, and then finally came back, and then they got a house, and then this also when the time when, and I've told this story. Vernon gave a Star of David necklace that Lois had given to him. He gave it to his wife as a wedding gift. Like, that's really original, right? What a low-class piece of shit, man. Now, and I remember when this happened, later on, Lois Roden snatched it off of Rachel's neck, and you can say that was cruel, but again, don't think of her as a 67-year-old woman. Think of her as a wronged woman, right? She's still a woman. Still has feelings. Still can be hurt. She still can have a broken heart, right? So she lured Rachel over, and when she grabbed that necklace off her neck, and Rachel was crying and hurt, but it wasn't Rachel's fault. It was Vernon's fault. And then in the study later that day, Vernon's blaming Lois. No, it was he never took responsibility. Friggin' coward. Ugh, God. Anyway. Okay, so back to the study here. So let's, so in this study, let me take you to the shenanigans. So let's see. I made some notes. Be patient with me, I'm winging this. You can read here some... let's see. We have a footnote here that I made. 17. Where the frick is it? I need to bold those footnotes. Sometimes they're hard to read. 15, 16, 18. God, I'm blind. Anyway, I have it to be clear, this thing that he has done. Here we go. I find very few letters come to Mount Carmel who ask for studies, ask for more information about what's being taught. All I hear continually is stories and phone calls of people wanting to know what I'm doing and what I've done. And I have it in red. To be clear, this thing he has done was to enter into a secret marriage with Lois Roden, only to secretly nullify it later so he could go and marry Rachel Jones. Highly irregular behavior, to say the least. And he acts shocked that people are upset about this and talking about it. Yes. So let's see. We got another note here, note 3. Now, he's giving this study, and he keeps making statements like this. Now, am I being deceptive in making these statements? Am I trying to be cunning to deceive somebody? Well, actually, yes. See here. I suspect the deception accusations stem from his behavior in concealing his relationship with Lois Roden. Again, perfectly reasonable for people to react this way in light of his behavior. But oh no, Mr. Innocent, I didn't do nothing. I'm innocent. So, okay, then here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I can't find it, but here we go. Notice that earlier Lois Roden is only going to tell them what they want to hear. Right? What is this? But now they should listen. Make up your mind. Yeah, they're supposed to listen because he had this thing where the spirit of prophecy through brother and sister Roden told them over and over to get out of California, where they are right now. California. In 1984, he was coming to California and telling people, well, the spirit of prophecy told you not to live in California. That is a lie. She may have, in other words, there may have been offhand remarks, maybe people shouldn't live in California. But was there a published letter sent to the field to say, hey, California people shouldn't be living in California? No, that's a lie. So he's feigning superiority because he's telling the people in the field. Yeah, this guy. And then he moved to California later anyway. So, all right. So anyway, what we want to get into is this spirit of prophecy thing, right? So in this, because this is all about the spirit of prophecy, ultimately. This is about the concept of the spirit of prophecy. So this is about the idea that someone's a prophet and God speaks to them. You know that. So we have, let's see, here we go. I put it in red. And he is quoting Revelation here, but then he says, so Sister White's message, the third angel's message, presented all these detailed studies on inspiration, how it's to be used, what it's for, why it is, what it's to do. So that's the model. Ellen White is the model that sets the pattern. Okay? She's to emulate in the sense of, and also to follow. And there's plenty there, which we will now look into. So that takes us to this channel.
As a Seventh-day Adventist, I had a nagging thought for decades, and that was, how do I know Ellen White was a true prophet? I always assumed someone had figured it out, someone smarter, maybe with a doctorate in theology. But as I grew up in the church, this question continued to nag at me. When everything closed down in 2020, I found myself with more time, and once again with this question of her authority.
There she is.
But I had no idea where to begin searching. How do you investigate a prophet to see whether or not they are legitimate? It's a difficult question to ask, especially when Adventism is all I've ever known. Eventually, I made an appointment with an Adventist pastor to discuss this question and to provide reasons that I should have confidence in Ellen White. But I also asked him to give me one book that would show the unfavorable side of Ellen White, because I wanted to see what was written about her that was not approved by the Adventist publishing companies. I felt this was the only way to see a different perspective. He suggested I read The White Lie by Adventist pastor Walter Ray, a book featured in the August 1982 edition of Time magazine. The book documented Ray's research, where he found that Ellen White had copied from various authors and passed them off as her own work. However, before purchasing this book, I felt very conflicted, and I'll admit that this was one of the hardest purchases I have ever made. You may think that's a strange thing to say, but you have to understand, growing up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, there is a general consensus about questioning Ellen White.
Look at her right there. Look at that little old lady. That's this little old, innocent old lady. Oh, don't be fooled. Let me tell you something. When I watched this guy's series of videos, hoo-wee. Right here. Here's his channel. It's a small channel. Test the Prophet. He's got a small number. He's only got 6 videos. So what he's basically done is he's taken the book by Walter Ray. So Walter Ray discovered these plagiarisms in the late 70s. And then he wrote a book and called it The White Lie, and it was published in 1982. Now, the book, of course, book form, it's long, and you have to go through. So this guy has taken essentially the idea of Walter Ray, and he's put them in video form to show you visually. He literally let's take a look at some of his method here.
White. She stated she was...
I want to find where he actually goes.
The first quote we will look at is from 19... I'll follow her.
Here we go.
Herald periodical from 1900, from where she writes about selling the Desire of Ages to others. She wrote, "Let canvassers handle books which bring light and strength to the soul, and let them drink in the spirit of these books. God would be pleased to see the Desire of Ages in every home."
So here he's talking about how she plagiarized the content of the Desire of Ages, which is essentially the Desire of Ages is her version of the life of Christ. And she has plagiarized extensively that book. Here we go.
Loving me and giving himself to me in return. Let's look at these together. As an Adventist reading these, I would believe Ellen White's
this is Desire of Ages on one side,
writing,
and this is the Great
and that
Teacher
God
by
really
a different
said,
author from
use these
years
gifts to
earlier.
convince him that there is no love
And he's
greater
literally
than mine
going back and
for heaven.
forth.
As an inspired
Very
prophet,
powerful.
Unless you quote others,
I watched
your
all
readers
these
will believe that
videos, and
these
I
are
watched him
inspired
do
words
this.
or thoughts that were given from heaven.
And so essentially
truthful.
what this man is doing, and he's a former Adventist, I assume he quit Adventism, he's doing a visual representation using the source materials. He's actually going back and buying originally published copies of these books as they were published in the 19th and early 20th century. He's going back to the original published books by these original authors, and he's laying them down by side. He's color coding back and forth, and there's absolutely no question about it. It's right there in your face, objectively. Ellen White was a plagiarist. Now, and then he talks about all the issues involved. So the church responded to this, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They responded to it from a legal perspective. That is, could Ellen White or the church have been sued for copyright violation? And the church responded, no, we're fine, because we couldn't have been sued for copyright violation, so we're great, no problem. But this is a moral issue. This isn't an issue of of copyright violation or a legal issue of money. This is a moral issue about basically stealing. And then there are defenses. Well, they didn't really know it, have the same idea of plagiarism back then, which is a lie. He goes back into the Adventist periodicals of the day, and where individuals famous in the Adventist church wrote about plagiarism, explain what it is. He cites dictionaries from the day, literary theft, on and on. By the time he's done, there's no escaping that she was a liar, a phony baloney, bullshitting, lying. Really, I strongly suspect some sorry, you know what I mean. I strongly suspect some serious mental health issues or something because it's so deceptive. One time her son found her copying and he was surprised, and she said, "Shh, don't tell anybody." Can write. A Christian man who served the whites for years. There's a really funny story. Because James White used to push her inspiration as well. There's a really funny story. They were married. They squabbled like married couples do sometimes. She had written a testimony that she wanted him to read, because she was inspired. She had visions, and James said, "Give me that. Ellen, give me that." And she handed it to him, and he threw it in the fire. That's great. Yeah, that's how much he believed in her inspiration, right? When it came down to it. Oh, I love that story because it's so human. So anyway, if you want to learn about the root of all of this, well, here it is. This is testing the prophet.
I'll include links below to the official teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path.
Let me catch the beginning of that.
It is as plain and clear as a voice speaking to me. And I am not in darkness as to what to write. It is as plain and clear as a voice speaking to me. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go.
Yeah. So this is the beginning of all this. So Vernon just taps into this, and he wasn't raised an Adventist, but he was exposed to it very young. And he's exposed to all this stuff. And this I guess you could call it a stereotype in a way. A stereotypical modern day 20th century prophet, 19th/20th century prophet. And it's all lies. It is. It's all bullshit. All the way down. So what I'm getting at is if we go back to what he said, right? Yeah, back here. So, he's telling us about Ellen G. White. I mean, if we go back or go forward, right here, Revelation, he's reading Revelation 14. Those who stand upon Mount Zion have one seal. And I'll tell you right now what seal saves them. The seal of the Sabbath. Because the Bible says through Sister White, then his parenthetical remark. You must understand, I declare Sister White's writings equal with the Bible. That's my statement to you. That's me speaking. And then I have a note here. He will change about his mind about this in the coming years, eventually questioning her inspiration out loud in my hearing. Yeah, he did that. The reason why he did is because of the polygamy thing. But this is before he was a polygamist, right? So he wasn't, because she speaks against polygamy quite extensively. I think eventually people were quoting that to him or showing him. I think he eventually decided, yeah, I got to get rid of Ellen White. She's essentially condemning what I'm doing. So he spoke against her. But this was way late. And it was only once in my hearing, and I don't remember what happened with it. So, yeah. He quotes extensively from her writings here at the end of this. Testimonies, Volume 9. The Testimonies to the Church are these massive 9 volumes, right? So, anyway. That's enough. That's my rant. So I hope you learned something. I'm going to close down for now. I have no idea when I'm going to make another video, but this is what I came up with. So the lesson is to test. I wish I had done more testing when I was young, but I was young, so that's my excuse. I don't know. My parents, I mean, they had a different set of weaknesses than I did, and others as well. So yeah, I wish that I could have done something, and I've talked about this before, but I was limited in my knowledge and my power, and so what happened happened, and here we are. But I can tell you that I've started a new channel, by the way. It is going to be rather heretical. Some of you may be rather disappointed. It's called Understanding Christ Myth Theory. So yeah. So we are going to be talking about the latest theories in Christ myth theory and understanding them. So you have to remember, it says understanding. It doesn't mean believe in it or think it's true or anything like that. It means understand it. And I have one video up, Archons of the Aeon. This is a very much in-depth study of 1 Corinthians 2, 6 through 8, where Paul says something very strange, in my opinion. Very strange. And so I give a study about, this is a year ago I made this, and he says something very unusual, very strange about who crucified Jesus. And so I kind of go with the text where it takes me. You know, I'm just like, okay, this is what the text says. Let's dive deep into it and see where we go with it. And it's very unconventional, and it's very strange, and it's very heretical, and some people will be like, what the? It's okay. You can, whatever. It's very provocative. But to me, that's what it says. So anyway. I've got another video coming on this soon, another day or two. I'm working on something. It's a small channel. Again, it's not going to have much to do with what I'm doing on this channel. This is just like another hobby of mine, so whatever. Anyway, just to let you know about it. Like I said, be warned. This video is out there. It's wild. So you might watch this and just, you know, like, you're crazy. That's it. That's it. And then you'll unsubscribe and you'll never talk to me again. So anyway. All right. Take care.